When life presses you down, when everything seems uncertain, when your heart is weary from fighting battles you cannot understand, there is one truth that will never fail you. Put everything in God's hand. Because when you place it all in God's hand, you are no longer carrying it in your own. You stop struggling against the storm and begin to move with the wind of divine power. You stop trying to fix what only heaven can heal. You stop depending on what is limited and begin to depend on the infinite. There is nothing more powerful, nothing more peaceful, nothing more liberating than surrendering every detail of your life into the mighty hands of God. So many people today are exhausted, not because their problems are too big, but because they are trying to hold everything by themselves. They are clutching fear, carrying burdens, gripping pain, and wondering why they cannot find rest. But the hands of God are stronger than your hands. The wisdom of God is higher than your understanding. The timing of God is more perfect than your planning. And the moment you release your grip, the moment you say, God, I place this in your hand, that is the moment divine peace enters your soul. When you put everything in God's hand, you are not giving up. You are rising up. You are rising to a higher level of trust, a higher dimension of faith, a higher awareness that your life is not random. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door is part of a divine orchestration that you may not understand now. But one day you will see clearly. God never asks you to understand everything. He asks you to trust Him in everything. The human heart loves control. We want to decide when, how, and why things should happen. But control is an illusion when you walk with God. Because the truth is, you were never in control. You were only invited to trust. You were never the author of your story. You were only called to believe in the one who writes it. When you surrender your plans, your worries, your fears, your future, and even your pain into God's hands, something supernatural begins to happen. You start to experience freedom from within. God's hand is not a symbol, it is power. It is the invisible force that holds creation together, the unseen protection that shields you in moments when you should have fallen apart. Think about it. It was God's hand that lifted the broken, that opened seas, that shut the mouths of lions, that turned darkness into light. That same hand is stretched toward you today. The same hand that shaped the stars and spoke life into being is ready to hold your life with precision and purpose. Why would you try to manage life's storms when the one who controls the wind is waiting to take the helm? There is something profound that happens when a person decides once and for all to stop worrying and start trusting. You become untouchable by fear. You become unshaken by circumstances, because your confidence is no longer built on what is around you, but on who is within you. Every time you say, God, I give this to you, you are breaking the chains of anxiety and allowing divine peace to reign in your heart. You see, faith is not saying you believe in God while still clinging to control. Faith is releasing. Faith is letting go. Faith is walking forward with open hands, trusting that what leaves your hand never leaves God's. Many people pray, but few truly surrender. They speak words of trust, but deep inside, they still hold on. But when you truly place something in God's hand, you stop checking to see if it's still there. You stop doubting if He heard you. You stop replaying what you can't fix. You rest because you know the one holding it never fails. When you put everything in God's hand, you also put yourself in a position to see miracles. Because God does not move in the realm of control. He moves in the realm of surrender. The moment you release it, the supernatural begins to work. Doors that were sealed begin to open. People that were against you begin to lose power. Situations that made no sense suddenly start to align. That is the mystery of divine movement. It begins where human control ends. Some of you have been asking God for change, but you have not yet released what needs to be released. You want peace, but you are still holding the burden. You want progress, but you are still clinging to the past. You want clarity, but you are still trying to decide the outcome. You cannot hold both faith and fear in the same hand. One must go. And when you choose faith, you are choosing to put it all in God's hands. Look at your life right now. Every unanswered prayer, every fear, every waiting season, God is saying, will you trust me? Not halfway, not with conditions. Not only if things go your way, but completely. Because trust that is conditional is not trust. It is negotiation. And God does not negotiate with fear. He destroys it with power. When you put everything in God's hand, you are declaring that you believe He knows what is best, even when you don't. You are confessing that His way is higher, His timing is better, and His wisdom is perfect. You are stepping out of the limited realm of your own reasoning into the limitless realm of divine orchestration. You are saying, God, even when I don't understand, I know you are working. Even when I don't see it, I know you are moving. Even when I am weak, I know your strength is enough. There is something beautiful about watching God work after you've let go, because He never wastes your waiting. Every delay becomes divine preparation. Every hardship becomes holy shaping. Every loss becomes a hidden setup for something greater. But none of this can happen while your hand is closed. Can only feel what you are willing to release. That's why when people tell you to trust the process, they are only half right. Because the process has no power if the hand of God is not in it. You must trust the one who holds the process, not the process itself. You must fix your eyes on the hand that holds tomorrow, not the uncertainty of today. When you do that, you rise above the fear that once controlled you. You begin to walk in peace while others panic. You begin to smile in the storm because you know the storm is not your master, God is. Everything you are facing right now has already passed through the hand of God. Nothing touches you unless it is allowed by Him for your growth or protection. Even the things that broke you, He will use to build you. Even the pain that hurt you, He will use to shape you. Because God's hand not only holds your future, it molds your character. Every difficulty is a divine tool forming strength, humility and faith within you. When you truly put everything in God's hand, you begin to see life from a higher place. You stop reacting to the temporary and start trusting in the eternal. You stop letting emotions dictate your peace and start allowing divine truth to anchor your soul. This is the secret to an unshakable life. A heart that rests in God's will cannot be broken by man's actions. There is a quiet power that flows from full surrender, a deep calm that silences every storm, because the one who trusts in God does not fear what tomorrow brings. The one who rests in God's hand knows that whatever comes, God has already gone before it. So many people live in anxiety because they still believe they must control what only God can manage. They try to force outcomes, manipulate timing, and hold together what is already falling apart. But there is a sacred peace that comes when you say, God, I give it all to you. You are saying, I will not fight the current of your plan. I will let it carry me. You are saying, I may not see how this ends, but I know you have already written the ending. And that kind of faith, that deep, surrendered faith, opens the gates of divine favor. Because when your heart is no longer wrestling, your spirit becomes receptive. God cannot fill hands that are already full. You must empty yourself of fear, of pride, of control, so that His hand can shape, bless, and elevate you. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the wisdom of knowing that your understanding is limited, but God's is infinite. It is the strength of knowing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in stillness, God is working. When you rest in that truth, you stop chasing after what is fading and start standing firm in what is eternal. Many people ask, how can I trust when I don't know what's next? The answer is simple. You trust because you know who holds what's next. You trust because you believe that God never loses control. You trust because every time you have fallen, His hand has lifted you again. Trust is not built on clarity, it is built on faith. You may not know the path, but you know the hand that guides you. You may not see the destination, but you know the one who created the map. When you place your journey in God's hand, even detours lead to destiny. There will be moments when it feels like everything is falling apart. When doors close, when friends turn away, when opportunities disappear, do not panic. Those are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of alignment. God removes what hinders your path so that He can replace it with what fulfills your purpose. Sometimes God will allow certain things to fall from your hand just to remind you that your hand is not the source, His is. He takes away only to give you what is greater. And though you may not understand it now, one day you will look back and thank Him for every no. Every delay, every unanswered prayer. You see, when you put everything in God's hand, you are also putting yourself in a place of transformation, because surrender does not just change your circumstances, it changes you. It breaks your pride, strengthens your humility, and deepens your faith. It teaches you to live with open hands and a soft heart. It turns you into someone who no longer fears loss, because you have learned that what is meant for you will never pass you by. That is the confidence that comes from divine trust, knowing that nothing good can slip through God's fingers. There is a divine mystery in the way God works. Often, He will strip away your safety nets so that you can finally see that His hand has been holding you all along. He will close every door you're trying to force open until you turn to Him and say, I can't do this without you. And in that moment, when you finally let go, when your soul whispers, I surrender, the atmosphere of your life shifts. What you could not make happen in years, God can do in moments. Because when you give God complete control, miracles are no longer optional. They are inevitable. Putting everything in God's hand does not mean life will be free from trials. It means you will walk through them differently. You will no longer panic in uncertainty because you know the outcome belongs to Him. You will no longer fear failure because you know that even if you fall into His hands. You will no longer compare your journey to others because you trust that what God has written for you cannot be taken by anyone else. You will live with a stillness that cannot be shaken because your peace no longer depends on what happens around you, but on who reigns above you. There is no greater wisdom than knowing when to release control. Some hold on to people that God is trying to remove. Some hold on to plans that God is trying to redirect. Some hold on to pain that God is trying to heal. But healing begins the moment you release. When you finally open your hands, you make space for divine restoration. God cannot pour new blessings into hands that are clenched in bitterness, fear, or resistance. But when you say, God, I trust your timing, your will, and your purpose, you align your life with His flow, and what once felt like chaos begins to make sense under divine order. The truth is, every time you try to take control, you interrupt what God is doing. You delay what was meant to happen naturally. You interfere with divine timing. That is why peace often feels far away when you insist on your own way. But when you let go, when you put everything in His hand, life begins to flow again. You start to see how every delay was protection. You start to realize that every unanswered prayer was a hidden blessing. You start to feel that every loss was making room for something greater. Because God never withholds what is good. He only withholds what is not aligned with your divine purpose. Faith means trusting God's hand even when you cannot trace His movement. It means believing that He is guiding your steps even in darkness. It means knowing that every season, whether joyful or painful, is necessary for your growth. Nothing in your life is wasted when it is placed in God's hand. Every failure becomes wisdom. Every heartbreak becomes strength. Every waiting season becomes preparation. When you understand that, you stop asking why and start declaring, thank you, God, for choosing me for this lesson. Putting everything in God's hand also means surrendering your identity, your ego, your desire to prove yourself. Because when you live for human approval, you are always at the mercy of people's opinions. But when you live for God, you are free. You no longer chase validation. You stand in conviction. You no longer worry about who sees your worth. You know your worth is already secured in divine eyes. When your life is in God's hand, you no longer perform. You simply live, led by peace, guided by wisdom, and sustained by unseen grace. The more you trust God, the lighter life becomes. You stop trying to force things that were never meant to be. You stop arguing with people who are not part of your path. You stop panicking when things shift unexpectedly. Because you realize If it's in God's hand, it's safe. If it's in God's hand, it's guided. If it's in God's hand, it's already working for your good. You begin to move through life with quiet confidence. Not because you know the outcome, but because you trust the one who determines it. And here is the truth: the moment you let go is the moment you rise, because surrender is not defeat. It is alignment. It is saying, God, you lead, I will follow. And when you do that, your entire atmosphere begins to change. Your energy becomes peaceful. Your decisions become wise. Your heart becomes calm. And your mind becomes clear. You no longer act out of fear, because fear has no place where faith reigns. You no longer fight for control, because control has no meaning where God is already in charge. God's hand is not passive. It is alive, active, and all-powerful. It is the hand that lifts you when you have fallen, that shields you when you are attacked, that guides you when you are lost. It is the same hand that writes your destiny with precision, ensuring that every chapter of your life fulfills its divine purpose. So when you put everything in God's hand, you are not losing control. You are placing it in the safest, most powerful, and most loving control that exists. When you put everything in God's hand, you begin to understand that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of divine control. Real peace does not come from having a perfect life. It comes from knowing a perfect God. You could be surrounded by storms and still have calmness in your heart when you know who holds the wind. You could be standing in uncertainty and still feel anchored when you know that every detail of your life rests in the palm of divine wisdom. This is the secret strength of those who walk with God. They may be shaken, but they are never shattered. They may cry, but they never collapse, because they know that nothing can fall apart when it is held together by the hand of God. Many people misunderstand surrender. They think surrender means giving up on effort, but surrender means giving effort a direction. It means that instead of working in your own strength, you allow your energy to flow with divine purpose. You still act, but you act in peace. You still plan, but you plan in faith. You still move, but you move under divine guidance. To put everything in God's hand does not mean you sit back and wait. It means you walk forward without fear, trusting that every step you take is already seen and guided from above. When you begin to live like this, you no longer measure success by outcomes. You measure it by obedience. You stop asking, did this go my way? And start asking, did I stay in God's way? Because when your decisions are led by the divine, even delays carry blessings. When you are in God's timing, even what looks like loss becomes gain. When you are in alignment with divine will, even confusion has meaning. This is why those who trust in God are never truly disappointed, because they understand that even when things don't go according to their plan, they are still going according to God's plan. There will be moments when God asks you to release what you love most. He will test your heart, not to break you, but to free you. He will remove attachments that have become idols. He will ask you to place your ambitions, your relationships, your reputation, your fears, all of it into His hand. And in that moment of surrender, your soul is purified. You begin to realize that you were never meant to possess anything permanently. You were meant to be a steward of what belongs to God. The moment you give back to Him what was never truly yours, you are set free from the chains of attachment. Let me tell you something powerful. The hand of God is never late. You might think you have missed your opportunity, that your time is over, that what you hoped for will never come to pass. But God does not operate by human clocks. He is not bound by deadlines or pressured by seasons. His timing is precise because His wisdom is perfect. When you think it's too late, God says, I am just beginning. When you think it's over, God says, watch me make a way. You see, what is impossible for you is effortless for Him. What you struggle to understand, He has already written into your destiny. That is why putting everything in His hand is not a risk. It is the safest decision you will ever make. If only you knew how many things God has already saved you from. The accidents that never happened, the betrayals that were exposed, the failures that were redirected. Because His hand was upon you. You don't always see it, but every time you trust, He acts. Every time you let go, He moves. Every time you choose faith over fear, His unseen hand begins to align the details of your life in ways you could never imagine. You don't need to see it to believe it. Faith is believing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in stillness, God is working. Even in confusion, God is guiding. Putting everything in God's hand also means accepting that not everything you desire is meant for you. Sometimes God will withhold something not because He is punishing you, but because He is protecting you. You might think a certain path or person is perfect, but God sees beyond what you can see. He knows what will destroy your peace, even if it looks beautiful right now. So when something doesn't go your way, instead of asking, why? God, start saying, thank you, God, for protecting me from what I cannot see. That is true faith. To trust divine wisdom, even when it contradicts human desire. The more you grow in faith, the more you understand that surrender is not a one-time act, it is a daily choice. Every morning you must wake up and say, God, I place this day in your hand. Every decision, every encounter, every challenge, you give it to Him before it even begins. When you live like this, anxiety loses its power because you no longer live from reaction, but from revelation. You stop living from fear of what could happen and start living in peace, knowing that whatever happens, God is already there. This is how divine peace works. It doesn't mean you have everything you want. It means you are content because you trust the one who gives and takes according to wisdom. It means you stop comparing your path to others because you know that your blessings are being customized by the hand of God. It means you no longer panic when doors close, because you know a closed door in your life is simply God saying, this way is not for you. And when you walk with God, you learn to thank Him for both the doors that open and the doors that close, because both are part of His divine protection. When you put everything in God's hand, you also begin to see how temporary everything else is. You stop clinging to material things as if they are eternal. You stop seeking validation from people who cannot add a single moment to your life. You stop fighting battles that are not worth your energy, because your focus shifts from earthly control to divine alignment. You begin to live with the awareness that everything you have, your health, your breath, your opportunities, are gifts on loan from God, and that awareness creates humility. It makes you more grateful, more patient, more peaceful. There is a divine rest that comes when you finally stop trying to force what is not meant to be. You realize that what God has prepared for you cannot be taken by anyone else. You realize that no human hand can block a door that God's hand has opened. You realize that no amount of effort can make something succeed if it's not in divine timing. When that truth settles deep into your spirit, you stop striving and start flowing. You stop chasing and start attracting, because everything that is yours will find you when your life is aligned with the will of God. The storms of life will still come. The winds will still blow. But when you have placed your life in God's hand, you will not be moved. The same waves that drown others will carry you higher. The same losses that break others will build you stronger, because you are not sustained by circumstances. You are sustained by faith. And faith built on God's power is unbreakable. Even when everything around you seems unstable, your spirit remains steady, because you know the foundation of your life is divine, not human. There will be days when you question the silence of God, when it feels like your prayers go unanswered, when it seems like nothing is changing. But silence does not mean absence. In the silence, God is preparing. In the stillness, God is positioning. In the waiting, God is strengthening your faith. What you call delay, He calls development. He is shaping you for what you have been asking for. Because sometimes the blessing is not ready for you. And sometimes you are not ready for the blessing. But when both align, divine timing manifests, and everything falls into place with perfect precision. So keep your heart steady. Keep your trust anchored. Keep your hands open. Do not rush what God is still preparing. Do not doubt what He has already promised. Do not fear what is beyond your control. Because the same hand that created the heavens, that paints every sunrise, that commands the seasons, that hand is holding your life with flawless care. Nothing is too heavy for Him, nothing too complex, nothing too late. When you give it all to God, you place your life in the safest, most capable hands in existence. And that is where your peace will live, not in perfect conditions, not in predictable plans, but in perfect trust, in knowing that every breath, every turn, every moment of your journey is already held, protected, and guided by the eternal hand of God. When you finally reach the place where your heart whispers, God, I put everything in your hand, something powerful happens within you. You step into a peace that cannot be disturbed by the noise of the world. You no longer chase after what is fleeting. You walk in alignment with what is eternal. You stop trying to understand every mystery and simply rest in the assurance that the one who formed you knows exactly where you are meant to be. That is the highest form of faith. Not seeing, not knowing, not controlling, but trusting completely. Putting everything in God's hand is not an act of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It takes courage to release what you love. It takes faith to wait when you do not understand. It takes humility to say, God, not my will, but yours. Yet that is where miracles are born, in surrender. Because the moment you let go, you make space for divine power to flow freely in your life. You make room for blessings that your own strength could never produce. You invite peace to replace panic, wisdom to replace confusion, and strength to replace fear. You must understand, life will always have moments that test your faith. There will be seasons of silence, moments of loss, and days when nothing makes sense. But when your life is in God's hand, you never walk those valleys alone. His unseen guidance will carry you through places that would have destroyed others. His divine timing will restore everything that was taken. His protection will cover you in ways you may never even realize. Every challenge becomes a chapter of growth. Every trial becomes a doorway to transformation. So do not fear the unknown. Do not be anxious about what is ahead. The same hand that lifted you before will lift you again. The same wisdom that guided you through yesterday will guide you through tomorrow. The same love that sustained you through storms will sustain you through calm. Every day, remind yourself, I do not need to know how everything will unfold. I only need to know who holds it all. And that knowledge, that deep, unwavering trust, is what turns ordinary faith into extraordinary peace. When you put everything in God's hand, your heart begins to glow with quiet strength. You begin to speak differently, walk differently, live differently. You stop living in fear and start living in freedom. You no longer chase after control, you rest in surrender. You stop begging for certainty and start embracing divine mystery. Because you have learned the greatest truth of all, that the hand of God never fails. It never drops what it holds. It never forgets what it protects. It never delays what it promises. So today, wherever you are, lift your burdens, your dreams, your pain, your fears, and place them into that mighty, merciful hand. Say it from your soul. God, I trust you with everything. Then breathe deeply and let peace wash over you. Because once it's in God's hand, it's already handled. Once it's in God's hand, it's already protected. Once it's in God's hand, it's already working for your good. That is the power of true surrender. To live each day with open hands and a trusting heart, knowing that you are not carrying life alone. You are being carried by the same divine hand that holds the universe together. And when your life is held there, you can walk through any storm with peace, any trial with strength, and any darkness with unwavering light, because everything, absolutely everything, is in the hand of God. Listen to me carefully, because what I am about to say is not an ordinary word, not a casual statement, not a suggestion from man. It is a divine declaration. God said you will be a billionaire. When God speaks, reality must bend to his voice. When God declares something over your life, everything in creation begins to rearrange itself to make it happen. You may not look like it now. You may not feel like it now. Your bank account may deny it. But if God said it, it is already written in the realm of the Spirit. It's already sealed in the courts of heaven. When God speaks, He does not consult your past. He does not consult your mistakes, your failures, your background, your education, or your connections. God does not ask for permission to bless you. When God says you will be a billionaire, it is not a prediction. It is a decree. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is the same voice saying to you now, "You will be a billionaire." And when that voice echoes through the heavens, everything that once resisted you begins to submit. Every door that was closed begins to open. Every resource that was hidden begins to find its way to you. Because divine instruction has been released. You see, there are moments when God releases a word so strong that the earth itself cannot ignore it. When God decides to lift a man, He does not need to ask anyone for approval. When God chooses to bless a person, no curse, no demon, no envy, no limitation can stand against it. God Himself said, "You will be a billionaire," not to boast, not to worship money, but to glorify His power through your abundance. Because when a righteous man rises in wealth, the name of God is magnified through his stewardship. You must understand this truth. The blessing of God is not a result of labor alone. It is a result of divine favor. The world says you must work harder, struggle longer, compete fiercely. But when God speaks prosperity into your destiny, it is not the sweat of your brow that brings it. It is the wind of His Spirit that carries it to you. The wealth you are about to hold is not coming by logic. It is coming by divine orchestration. God is raising billionaires not from the elite, but from the hidden places, from the humble, from the overlooked, from those who dared to believe when everything around them said, impossible. Many people misunderstand wealth. They think wealth is merely about money. No. True wealth is the manifestation of divine abundance. It is the overflow of God's intention for your life. It is a signal that you have aligned your heart with His purpose. When God says you will be a billionaire, He is not just talking about digits in your account. He is talking about your capacity to influence, to build, to restore, to bless, to transform. Billionaire is not just a financial status. It is a divine calling. It is a covenant position. You must prepare yourself for what God has spoken. Because when God gives you a promise, He also prepares you for its weight. A billion blessing requires $1 billion heart. Many want the crown, but they reject the cross of discipline, faith, and trust. You must understand that divine wealth is not given to those who chase money. It is given to those who chase God. Money is the servant of divine purpose. And when God sees that you will not let money rule you, He will command money to obey you. There will be seasons of silence before the fulfillment. God will test your faith before He trusts you with fortune. He will ask you to believe even when there is nothing visible to hold on to. Because faith is the currency of divine manifestation. Faith is the invisible bank account that funds the visible one. You cannot withdraw from heaven what you have not deposited through faith. When God said you will be a billionaire, He was not testing your intellect. He was testing your belief. Can you believe Him even when your circumstances contradict Him? Can you stand firm even when you are mocked? Remember, every billionaire chosen by God must first be broken by God. Brokenness precedes elevation. The vessel must be emptied before it can be filled. Do not despise your current season of lack, because it is the classroom of preparation. God is teaching you the language of abundance through the lessons of scarcity. He is molding your spirit so that when wealth arrives, pride will not destroy you. He is removing greed, envy, fear, and impatience so that when the floodgates open, your heart will remain pure. The promise of God does not fail. Time cannot erase it. Delay cannot destroy it. Doubt cannot cancel it. When God said, "You will be a billionaire," that word became immortal. It cannot die. It will live until it becomes flesh. And when the appointed time arrives, you will look around and see that every connection, every opportunity, every loss, and every pain was part of the architecture of divine success. God wastes nothing. Even your struggles are assets in the kingdom economy. But listen carefully, you must begin to think like what God called you. If God said you will be a billionaire, you cannot think like a beggar. You cannot speak like a victim. You cannot move like someone who is unsure of destiny. You must rise in your mentality. God prospers according to the level of your revelation. You cannot receive what you cannot perceive. The limit of your thought becomes the limit of your manifestation. When you think small, you insult the vastness of God. When you think big, you honor His majesty. Do not ask how. It is not your job to calculate God. He is the God who brings water from rocks, oil from jars, and manna from heaven. He does not operate through logic. He operates through faith. Your role is to align, not to analyze. You do not need to know the route when you trust the guide. You do not need to know the formula when you know the source. If God said you will be a billionaire, your duty is to walk as if it is already done, talk as if it is already manifested, and act as if heaven has already signed the document. Be careful with your words. Your mouth is the pen that writes your destiny. Stop speaking lack. Stop confessing fear. Stop repeating the language of limitation. Begin to speak the language of abundance. Say, I am what God said I am. I have what God said I have. I will see what God said I will see. Every time you declare that, you align the atmosphere with divine reality. Words are seeds. Speak wealth, and wealth begins to grow. Speak faith, and faith multiplies. The reason God wants to make you a billionaire is not for luxury. It is for legacy. It is not for show. It is for service. You will fund dreams, build schools, feed the hungry, restore dignity here, and demonstrate that the blessing of God is real. You will be proof that obedience is not poverty, that righteousness is not weakness, that walking with God is not limitation. Your wealth will be a testimony that God is not a theory, He is power. The world has seen billionaires made by greed, manipulation, and deceit. But now God is raising billionaires born of righteousness. Men and women whose wealth is rooted in integrity, whose prosperity is born of prayer, whose abundance flows from obedience. God is rewriting the story of wealth. He is saying, I can make anyone great as long as their heart is mine. You are that person. You are that vessel. You are that chosen one. Guard your heart in this journey. Because when wealth comes, so does attention. Many will try to attach themselves to your success. Some will envy you, others will misunderstand you. But remember, your calling is divine, not social. You do not owe explanation to man when you are walking in divine instruction. If God said you will be a billionaire, your loyalty must remain with the one who spoke, not the ones who watch. Do not measure your progress by comparison. Some will rise faster, some slower. But divine timing is not delay, it is precision. God is not slow, He is strategic. Every step you take is calibrated by divine wisdom. Even when you feel behind, God is aligning the right connections, opportunities, and resources for your manifestation. You are not late, you are being perfected. The promise will not come a day early or a day late. It will arrive at the moment when you are mature enough to manage it. Your environment may not believe, your friends may doubt, your family may not understand. But it doesn't matter who disbelieves you when God Himself has already affirmed you. Every no from man is irrelevant when heaven has said, yes, you must walk with boldness. You must speak with authority. You must carry yourself with the dignity of divine destiny. And when that moment comes, and it will come, you will stand before the world as evidence that God keeps His word. Your story will silence the mouths of mockers. Your testimony will awaken faith in others. People will say, how did you do it? And you will say, God said it, and I believed. That will be the secret of your success, not strategy, not skill, but surrender to divine instruction. Because true wealth is not a result of chance, it is a result of covenant. You are not chasing riches, you are fulfilling prophecy. You are walking in the script God wrote for you before the foundation of the earth. Every challenge you face now is only confirming how valuable your destiny is. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. When God declares abundance over your life, He is not describing a possibility. He is revealing a destiny. You are not merely hoping for wealth. You are walking toward what has already been established in the divine plan. God's word is not like human promises. People can change their minds, but God's word is eternal. The moment He said you will be a billionaire, that moment your future shifted. The invisible laws of the universe began to align themselves with His command. The winds of destiny began to move in your favor. Even when you cannot see it, things are moving beneath the surface. The unseen hand of God is rearranging circumstances, redirecting people, and rebuilding opportunities just to fulfill what He spoke over you. But you must understand this. Wealth without wisdom destroys, but wealth with divine direction transforms. God will not release abundance into unprepared hands. He trains your mind before He fills your account. He strengthens your character before He multiplies your resources. Because the higher you rise, the deeper your roots must go. Wealth will not change you, it will reveal who you truly are. That is why God refines you before He elevates you. He allows hardship not to punish, but to polish. He tests your patience, your loyalty, and your motives. He asks you, will you still trust me when nothing around you looks like what I promised? For it is easy to believe when everything is visible, but faith is proven when you hold on to God's word in the dark. There is a reason some people never rise financially. They want the blessing, but they reject the process. They pray for abundance, but disobey divine instruction. God is not looking for dreamers who talk about wealth. He is searching for daughters who align with His principles. Every divine promise carries a divine condition. You cannot expect God to bless you while living contrary to His wisdom. He blesses the obedient, not the careless. He prospers those who walk in integrity, who give when it is hard, who trust Him with their substance. When you make God your priority, He makes abundance your portion. God will teach you the economy of faith, the principle that supernatural supply flows not from what you hold, but from what you release. The world says, hold tightly, save every coin, protect your wealth. But God says, give freely, and I will multiply. He is not trying to take from you. He is trying to increase you. When you sow into others, when you give to the poor, when you invest in good causes, you are opening the gates of divine return. What you give does not leave your life. It leaves your hand and enters your future. God never forgets a seed. Every act of generosity is a divine transaction recorded in eternity, waiting for the perfect time to manifest in abundance. You must train your eyes to see beyond the natural. The physical realm is not the final reality. It is the reflection of the spiritual. Poverty often begins in the mind before it appears in the pocket. Likewise, prosperity begins in faith before it shows in finances. You cannot live rich in spirit and remain poor in manifestation. God designed the world to respond to faith. What you believe deeply becomes what you eventually see physically. That is why you must protect your inner world. Your thoughts, your meditations, your confessions. They are the architects of your reality. When God gives you a promise, the enemy will always attempt to whisper doubt. He will tell you that you are not qualified, that it is too late, that others are more capable. But remember, God does not choose the qualified. He qualifies the chosen. He lifts those who rely completely on Him. When He said you will be a billionaire, He factored in your weaknesses, your failures, and your shortcomings. None of those disqualify you. In fact, they are the very reasons God's glory will be magnified through you. Because when you rise, the world will know that it was not your ability, but His hand that brought you there. Do not let small-minded people limit your faith. Some will tell you that it is wrong to desire wealth, that you should be content with little. They do not understand that divine abundance is not greed, it is purpose. God wants His people to rise so they can be channels of good, vessels of transformation, and pillars of generosity. How can you feed the hungry without resources? How can you build schools, shelters, and hospitals without provision? God gives wealth to those whose hearts are aligned with compassion. He does not raise billionaires for self-glory, but for divine responsibility. You are blessed to be a blessing. You are chosen to be a channel of His abundance. There will be moments when you feel nothing is happening, when your efforts seem wasted, when your faith feels weak. In those moments, remember this: God works in silence. The seed grows underground long before the fruit appears. The waiting season is not the wasting season, it is the shaping season. God is building your endurance so that When success comes, you can sustain it. Many people receive blessings they cannot maintain because they did not let God prepare them first. Do not rush what God is perfecting. His timing is flawless. When He releases the flood of blessings, it will be so overwhelming that you will understand why He made you wait. And when that breakthrough comes, remember where it came from. Wealth can be a dangerous illusion. It can make people forget the source. The moment you forget God, you start sinking. Stay humble. Stay connected to the one who gave it. Never let success separate you from surrender. When your hands are full, keep your heart empty of pride. When you sit among the powerful, remember the days you cried to God in silence. Gratitude protects the blessing. Humility sustains it. God is not limited by systems. He does not need the economy to favor you. He does not need connections to bless you. He does not need your job, your business, or your investors to prosper you. All He needs is your faith. He can use anything. A simple idea, a single opportunity, even a stranger, to change your entire destiny. Stop trying to figure out the method. Focus on the Master. When you put your trust fully in God, He will surprise you with sudden acceleration. In one day, He can change your story. In one moment, He can erase years of struggle. You do not serve a God of gradual change. You serve a God of sudden miracles. You must also understand the spiritual warfare attached to divine wealth. When God is about to lift you, darkness will try to distract you. It will send confusion, temptation, laziness, and fear. Not because the enemy is strong, but because your destiny is dangerous to his plans. He fears what will happen when a God-fearing billionaire rises. He fears what will happen when you begin to fund light, truth, and hope. That is why you must protect your mind and your peace. Guard your focus as if it were gold, because it is. Distraction is the enemy of destiny. Stay focused on what God said, not what people say. There will be critics, there will be mockers. Some will call you delusional, others will call you arrogant. But remember, they did not hear what God told you. They were not there when He whispered your future into your heart. Do not expect them to understand what was never revealed to them. Walk in quiet confidence. Let your results speak for you. The day will come when those who mocked you will ask for your advice. Those who doubted you will seek your counsel. God will use your success to silence your critics. And when you finally step into that season of overflow, remember that money is not the master. It is the messenger. It is not the destination. It is the tool. Use it to reflect the heart of God. Let your wealth bring light where there is darkness, joy where there is sorrow, and hope where there is despair. Build with it. Heal with it. Empower with it. You were not called to be rich. You were called to be impactful. And wealth is the language through which your impact will speak. Never forget this truth. The promise of God carries its own power to fulfill itself. You do not need to make it happen through anxiety or fear. The word that God spoke over you contains the energy to bring itself to pass. Just as a seed contains the tree within it, so the word of God contains your wealth within it. Your only task is to believe, to nurture that belief, to keep your faith alive even when everything seems impossible. Faith Faith is the soil where divine promises grow. When God decides to lift a person into a realm of abundance, He does not check the balance of your account. He checks the depth of your faith. God does not look at your job title, your education, or your family name. He looks at your trust in Him, because the wealth He is about to place in your hands is not humanly produced. It is divinely transferred. There are treasures that have been hidden, waiting for the right heart to carry them. There are doors that have been locked for generations, waiting for one voice of faith to speak the key. And when God said you will be a billionaire, He was announcing to heaven and earth that you are that chosen vessel. But listen, the making of a billionaire in God's system is not just financial, it is spiritual. God enlarges your inner world before He expands your outer world. He changes your perspective before He changes your position. He matures your character before He multiplies your resources. Because wealth without divine direction is like power without purpose, dangerous and short-lived. That is why God allows you to pass through fire before you touch gold. He is not delaying you, He is defining you. He is not withholding blessings, He is protecting them until you are ready. There is something sacred about divine timing. Many people sabotage their own blessing by trying to rush what only God can release. You cannot fast forward a divine promise. You can only prepare for it. When God sets a season, not even your impatience can make it arrive early. But when the time is right, not even your enemies can make it arrive late. There will come a moment when what you prayed for suddenly appears, and you will realize why it took so long. Because God was aligning everything to meet at the right intersection of destiny. Your journey to divine wealth may not look glamorous now. You may be surrounded by struggle, by limitations, by misunderstanding. But remember, God begins His masterpieces in hidden places. Diamonds are not formed in light. They are formed in pressure, in darkness deep beneath the surface. So if you are under pressure, if you are in the dark, do not curse the process. God is forming something priceless within you. Every test, every loss, every delay is shaping your capacity to handle what He is about to release. Do not envy others who seem to rise faster than you. Some climb ladders built by men, while others are lifted by the hand of God. What man builds can collapse overnight, but what God establishes stands forever. The wealth that is coming your way will not fade, because it will be rooted in purpose. You will not just be rich, you will be relevant. Your influence will not just be economic, it will be spiritual. You will carry an authority that money cannot buy, because your prosperity will be clothed in divine power. You must develop the mindset of a custodian, not an owner. What God gives you is not for you to worship. It is for you to steward. You are not the source. You are the channel. God gives through you, not just to you. The day you begin to see yourself as the distributor of divine wealth, not just the recipient, that is the day you become unstoppable. When your intentions align with divine purpose, heaven's resources flow without limit. God trusts those who use wealth to extend His goodness, not their ego. And hear this well, divine wealth will test your humility. It will test your relationships. It will test your focus. because wealth amplifies what is already inside you. If greed lives in your heart, wealth will expose it. If pride lives in your heart, wealth will magnify it. But if gratitude lives in your heart, wealth will multiply it. That is why you must keep your spirit low before God. Even when your name rises high among men, the higher He lifts you, the deeper you must bow in humility. Remember where you came from. Remember who sustained you when no one saw you. Never forget that it was God who opened every door and orchestrated every step. You will notice when God begins to fulfill His promise, opportunities will begin to appear where none existed before. Ideas will begin to flow like rivers. People will begin to be drawn to you, not by coincidence, but by divine magnetism. You will start to notice patterns of favor that cannot be explained. Do not call it luck. It is divine alignment. God's favor will go ahead of you into meetings, into negotiations, into decisions. Your name will be spoken in rooms you have never entered. Your reputation will rise before your presence does. And when you finally arrive, the environment will already be prepared to receive you. That is how God operates. He goes before His chosen ones. Be careful to cultivate peace in the middle of success. Many rise, but few remain steady. True wealth is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of divine stability. When storms come, wealth without God collapses. But when your foundation is built on faith, no storm can shake you. God will teach you how to be content in plenty and patient in scarcity. He will show you that peace is the greatest currency of all. When you have peace with God, everything else falls into place. You must also learn to listen for God's voice even in prosperity. Sometimes, abundance can be louder than wisdom. The noise of success can drown out the whisper of direction. Never allow your growth to silence your dependence. The same voice that guided you through wilderness must continue to guide you through wealth. Stay sensitive. Keep your heart soft before Him, because one wrong partnership, one wrong decision, one moment of pride can destroy what took years to build. But if you remain anchored in divine instruction, you will not just gain wealth, you will sustain it for generations. There will be people who try to imitate your success without understanding your source. They will chase your results but ignore your relationship with God. They will copy your actions but not your alignment. Let them try. They will soon discover that what is divine cannot be duplicated without devotion. The key to your prosperity is not a formula. It is a covenant. What works for you is not your strategy, it is your surrender. God lifts those who submit fully, not those who calculate partially. Do not be surprised when people leave you during your process. God will isolate you before He elevates you. He removes those who cannot handle your next level. He separates you from distractions so He can prepare you for distinction. You may cry over who left, but one day you will thank God for protecting you from those who would have limited you. Every departure is divine pruning, and every pruning makes room for new growth. You are being shaped to handle influence. Wealth is influence, and influence is responsibility. The moment you rise, others will look to you for direction, for inspiration, for leadership. God is preparing you to be a light, not a spotlight, but a lighthouse. A spotlight draws attention to itself, but a lighthouse guides others safely home. That is what your wealth will become. A light of hope for those lost in darkness. A signal of what faith can do. God said you will be a billionaire, but not just for your comfort. He said it because through you, others will see that trusting in God is not in vain. Your story will preach louder than any sermon. When people see what God has done in your life, they will be reminded that nothing is impossible for those who believe. You will be a living testimony of divine faithfulness. You will show that obedience is never wasted, that prayer is never ignored, and that humility is never forgotten. So as you move forward, refuse to let fear dictate your steps. Fear has never built anything of worth. Fear is the language of limitation. Faith is the language of dominion. Speak faith, walk faith, think faith. Let your entire being reflect trust in God's power. When you move in faith, heaven moves with you. When you take one step in obedience, God takes 10 steps in acceleration. The day will come, and it is coming soon, when everything God said will stand visible before your eyes. The wealth will come, the opportunities will come, the expansion will come, and you will look back and say, it was all worth it. You will see why you had to cry, why you had to wait, why you had to be misunderstood. You will understand that every closed door was divine protection, every delay was divine preparation, and every hardship was divine construction. You will stand in awe, not of what you achieved, but of what God accomplished through you. And as you walk in that promise, remember that the greatest wealth is not what you possess, but who possesses you. Stay in God. Let Him continue to be your anchor, your wisdom, your guide. Because the true billionaire is not the one with the most money, but the one with the greatest peace, purpose, and power flowing from God. Your hands may carry gold, but your heart must carry gratitude. Your account may overflow, but your soul must remain anchored in humility. This is your season of becoming. This is the hour when prophecy transforms into reality. God has spoken, and His word does not return empty. Every promise will mature, every vision will manifest. Every dream He planted will bear fruit. Walk with confidence, speak with authority, live with conviction, because God has already settled it in heaven. You will be a billionaire, and not for vanity, but for victory. Not for display, but for destiny. The world will see your success, but only you will know the secret. It was God, and God alone. So stand firm in faith, for what God has spoken cannot be undone. The path may test you, but the promise will triumph. When God says you will be a billionaire, it is not a wish, it is a decree written in eternity. Walk boldly, think greatly, give generously, and remain humble. Because every breath of your success, every blessing in your hands, and every door that opens before you will echo one truth: that God alone is the source, the sustainer, and the finisher of your destiny.